I sat in deep contemplation and struggled to maintain a period of concentration as I attempted to create an understanding of postmodernism. Now here I am, a better person for having at least grasped aspects of postmodernism. I will try my best not to bore you and hopefully teach you something you don't already know. Postmodernism is a concept that came into existence in the late 20th century. As the movement gained momentum through the second half of this century, its ideology became stronger and clearer. From this sprung the concept of common denial. Historically, postmodernists have concerned themselves with disagreeing with layman's ideology from the 17th to 19th centuries. It is in the 18th century that postmodernists have general denial of the Enlightenment period. During that time, a man with a piece of danceware as his last name, Jean-Francois Lyotard, wrote a book titled The Postmodern Condition, which brought to life the ideas that were being experienced through most of Europe. Ideas came about the truth is relative, the rejection of a concept called meta-narratives, and the acceptance of deconstruction of pop culture became apparent. This is an important part in history as postmodernism gave birth to the concept of late capitalism. Postmodernism has many facets that can be discussed for days, which I can quickly discover as I try to grasp postmodernism as a whole. The concept of capitalism has been around for centuries, but the concept of late capitalism evolved as a response to the 1973-74 world recession, which occurred due to oil prices soaring as a result of the American-Israeli War. Then along came a man called Frederick Jameson, who wrote a book titled Postmodernism, or the Cultural Logic of Late Capitalism. I'm assuming most of you have played with Lego in your childhood. Today I will attempt a postmodernist late capitalist reading of the Lego Movie. So if you like the Lego Movie, I apologise in advance for potentially distorting your view of the movie. The Lego Movie was released in 2014 and is about anthrophonic minifigures. There are many subplots throughout the movie involving power struggles, love stories, and self-belief, and of course the Chosen One storyline. For the purposes of this assignment, I've chosen this movie because it can be interpreted through the postmodernist late capitalist ideology. These views can be understood and are portrayed surprisingly well. I will firstly try to explain postmodernist capitalism as I understand it, and then apply this ideology to the Lego Movie. Frederick Jameson's book, Postmodernism, or the Cultural Logic of Late Capitalism, goes on to explain the problem of postmodernism, how its fundamental characteristics are to be described, whether it even exists in the first place, whether the very concept is of any use, or is, on the contrary, a mystification. Postmodernism itself, in its varied and complex aspects, is a hard concept to grasp. However, when it becomes specified down to something like capitalism, the concept becomes a little clearer. Some comprehensible features and intriguing points are raised throughout Jameson's book. One of the main points that I picked up while reading his book was his explanation and implementation of late capitalism in today's world. Two key features of late capitalism in today's economic structure are, as describes, a tendential web of bureaucratic control and the interpenetration of government and big business, state capitalism, such that Nazism and the New Deal, forms of relief from the Great Depression, are related systems in some form of socialism. Capitalism is described as late capitalism because capitalism has evolved from what it used to be to what it is now. For example, the emergence of multinational companies and the ever-growing world capitalist systems, which are more distinct from old imperialist systems. More recently, late capitalism has been described as a new international division of labour through modern forms of labour. However, late capitalism originally came into discussion post-World War II, when the world was undergoing significant reforms in international relations, when colonies were being decolonised, and the new economic world systems emerged. But the most interesting aspect of understanding late capitalism is that the aspect of hegemonic ideology. Jameson discusses this aspect in his book. If the ideas of a ruling class were once the dominant or hegemonic ideology of bourgeois society, the advanced capitalist countries today are now a field of stylistic and discursive heterogeneity without a norm. This idea of a hegemonic class ruling over a bourgeois society can be directly applied to the Lego Movie. The idea of the movie first came into discussion in 2008, which was, as previously mentioned, around the same period as the global financial crisis. At the time of development, there were many historical, cultural, and social aspects that could have had an effect on various ideologies throughout the movie and how they were depicted. The emergence of ideas such as mass culture, cultural domination, commodification, and the reoccurrence of ideologies such as capitalism and communism were covered in the movie. Capitalism and communism are still present in today's society, but there are more capitalist countries today than communist. The historic concept of capitalist states can be depicted throughout the entire movie. Mr. Business is seen to want to have complete control over all citizens of Britsburg. He wants to eliminate all creativity and individuality and have control over everyone. The citizens of Britsburg all follow each other and no one strives to be different apart from a niche few called master builders. This idea of mass culture is displayed throughout the movie, as there is only one TV show shown and only one song is allowed to be played throughout the entire city.
Everything is awesome. Oh my gosh, I love this song. It's cool when we're part of a team. Everything is awesome. No!
Looking through the postmodernist lens allows us to create an alternate view on the events and underlying messages of the movie. Faceless masters continue to inflict the economic strategies which constrain our existence. The post-literacy of late capitalist world reflects not only the absence of a great collective project. This quote from Jamison can be directly associated to the main antagonist, Mr. Business, in the Lego Movie. Mr. Business isn't necessarily faceless as such, but he suggests a hegemonic ruling over a bourgeois society and implies not only economic strategies but also capitalist strategies to keep the society underneath him. Homogenicized. Homogenicized is defined as someone wanting to wipe out the differences between towns and villages. To homogenize society is to make uniform. The ideas behind the Lego movies have been acclaimed, heartwarming, and funny. However, there are clearly aspects of the movie that can be interpreted in terms of postmodernist late capitalist views. I feel these underlying ideas potentially came about as a result of a global crisis. It is interesting to note that the global financial crisis occurred at the same time as the Lego movie was being developed. The global crisis could have directly impacted the underlying views and thoughts that were developed by directors when they were creating the movie. The worry created by global turmoil in direct relation to the economy could have influenced the direct decisions to make links to capitalism. This is as capitalism is the main economic structure in main world economies. The theory of capitalism provides us with an alternate interpretation of the Lego movie, as it develops an understanding of Mr. Business's objectives as those of capitalist theorists. This is to control mass culture and control whatever can be expressed.